again.
Coming up today on the Indie Wave Podcast, she's got style, she's got moxie, and she's got the pipes of a crooner and the stage presence of the Rat Pack. And she's here today, Jackie Gibson, with her hit single, My Eyes Are Open, only on the Indie Wave Podcast.
You begin, that begin again, and boom, I give in again. I have a will made of steel, my friend.
The Indie Wave Podcast with That Sailing Guy. That Sailing Guy, also known as Christopher German. In partnership with Glacier FM and broadcasting from the birthplace of grunge, Aberdeen, Washington. Welcome to the Indie Wave Podcast. Welcome to the Indie Wave Podcast. I'm your host, That Sailing Guy. Now, to date, we have talked with rockers and rappers, blues girls and country's guys. We've even chatted with a few stars in the making who some might consider over the hill, but as Joe Weimer put it in our premiere episode, 60 is the new sexy. And that's the amazing part of the indie movement. No one is past their prime, and everyone is welcome to this party, regardless of race, creed, gender identity, and or preference. We don't care what God you pray to, and we don't care what flag you're flying to fit into this movement. Everyone is welcome aboard the Indie Wave, and this week we have a lady who harkens back to a day when men wore ties to dinner, ladies teased their locks to beehives, and crinoline was the slow hiss you heard on the dance floor. Just hearing a few notes from this lovely lady makes your heart yearn for the feel of a 1965 Cadillac Eldorado cruising down past the Sands Hotel in the Vegas Strip on your way to eat a charbroiled T-bone steak while downing a 3-martini afternoon in a sharp-cut jacket with a well-creased linen slacks on your butt and your favorite pair of loafers on your feet. Ah, those were the days, weren't they? But alas, we may only relive them through the sounds of the proud few nightclub crooners who grace the stage every so often in the OG clubs just off the Broadway. But tonight, folks, we're bringing the glory days of Vegas back, if just for a few moments, when we talk with a lady who is putting the style back in performing and getting some amazing love from her listeners over at Glacier FM for her hit, My Eyes Are Open. Her name is Jackie Gibson, and she is part of a duo you can find on Facebook called Dos Divas, but it was her solo performance that got the attention over at Glacier FM. She sat down with me and chatted about how she made such a crossover hit and gave me chills thinking about the days when performers teamed up with big bands and smooth pianos for a night of music, opulence, and cocktails poured by the masters. We'll play that in its entirety because it's got a great message that you have to hear before we share the chat I had with Ms. Gibson, followed by a tune from the Lady of the Hour that she personally selected we play. So, are you ready, cats and kittens? Here it is, My Eyes Are Open, featuring Jackie Gibson, and away we go.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were strangers coming from a distant land, and from the boat we saw the lady with the light in her hand. She said, "Welcome, lost and lonely refugee." So I pledged to her the best in me. My eyes are open, freedom is calling. My eyes are open, I can see liberty. My eyes are behind went up in flames. And we prayed to God who always understands. Lord, let this be the promised land. My eyes are open, freedom is calling. My eyes are open, I can see liberty. My eyes are open, tyranny's falling. My eyes are open, I can see liberty. God bless America, God bless these days. God bless the blend of the old and new ways. God bless the hopes and the dreams that we share. God bless the people who fight to get there. God bless the children who don't understand. Bless them and keep them all proud of this land. God bless the people who still live in fear. God bless the statue that guided us here.
Tengo frío. ¿Cuándo va a venir mami?
No te apures. Papi dice que tener fuerza.
I can see liberty. Tyranny's falling. My eyes are open. I can see liberty. Yeah, yeah.
Hey there, folks. This is a really cool interview because you may not know this about that sailing guy, me, that guy. I am kind of a big band kind of guy. I love good music. I love to feel the rhythm. I love to feel the rhyme. I love to feel the emotion. I love to feel it all. And quite frankly, there's a lot of stuff out there that just doesn't touch that side of me all that often. And so I kind of catch my Frank Sinatra, my Bobby Darin where I can get it. I get my Dean Martin wherever I can get it. And this lady here, she channels all of them. And she is an absolute amazing woman. And she's going gold with her hit Up on Glacier FM. And you guys are going to love what she has to say. I'm convinced of it. But before we do any further and we talk any more about how amazing she is, let's meet the woman behind the picture, Jackie Gibson. Come on this screen. Let's talk to you a little bit.
Sure thing. I'm here. Thank you for having me. It's great.
Well, it's my great pleasure. And you guys are you have an amazing hit up there on Glacier FM called "My Eyes Are Open" right now, and I want to hear the story of that. And then I also want to hear, where your music chops came from and all that kinds of good stuff. And
Sure.
and I've been doing all kinds of research about you today, and
Wow.
I found like 3 different YouTube channels. I found all kinds of good stuff about you. But let's start off with "My Eyes Are Open." Where did you come from on that thing, and how did you get it up on Glacier FM?
Wow. Well, that to me is a song that's been dear to my heart for so many years. Believe it or not, way back when I used to do it as a rock and roll song.
Really?
Yes, it was written by gentlemen, Stephen Michael Schwartz and Steve Perry of Journey.
Really? I
And
didn't know that.
And the words really hit home with me because, believe it or not, my mother came to this country and struggled and sought her freedom here and everything and was very happy here. So it kind of expressed the story of coming from a different country. Like, for instance, Stephen's grandmother was in the war at that time from Germany, and she came over here and she was on the boat coming across, seeing the Statue of Liberty. And that's how she explained to Stephen how she felt. So he and Stephen Perry wrote the song about my eyes are open and liberty and freedom and how she sought her freedom here and her happiness here and hoping for that because she lost all of her family back in Europe.
Uh-huh.
So it was a very, very touching story. And it hit home with me also to many people who try to come to the country here to start a new life and everything. So I decided, I thought because it was such a powerful song, I really wanted to do something with it. So I decided to redo it. And with a dear friend of mine, Stefan Oberhoff, in his studio called The Creation Station, we recreated the song into something more potent, stronger, something more contemporary. And then we decided to do a video. So that video, that what you saw is what we created together to express the feeling of so many people. Many of us are immigrants coming here from different countries, of course, and looking for happiness and everything and freedom and a different life and stuff. So I decided to use that song and use that video that he and I created together.
Well, a lot of times what I do with this podcast is I'll only play a little snippet of the song that's all over Glacier FM. But I think that video is so powerful. I played that full song before we did this interview because, quite frankly, I think My Eyes Are Open. I got a different connotation from that. I got the My Eyes Are Open. With you put a lot of pictures in there of the atrocities that happened to the children when we were putting children in immigration camps and we were taking them, breaking them away from their parents and whatnot. You put a bunch of pictures in there, and I thought that was what you meant by My Eyes Are Open. Is that we had such a great idea of what this country originally was supposed to be about, but now my eyes are open and I see all of the things that may not be so pretty about it.
That's true. Also, that's very true. So it's a duality right there. You're right. I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, it expresses that as well halfway through when you show the children immigrants. So you're right. It does express that as well. I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, I think you pulled a whole new meaning out of that song, and because now I didn't even know there was a remake, but now that I know it's a remake, you gave it all new meaning, and you gave it new meaning to me as well. And the people at Glacier FM are loving that song. You're absolutely, and I think that's opening people's eyes as well. My eyes are open, opening people's eyes to there's a whole bunch of different indie music out there. There's a whole bunch of different abilities out there that can really touch on music. And you, I think, I dare say you're a crooner. Would you be offended if I called you that?
Not at all. Not at all. It's a compliment to me. Thank you.
well, tell me about what are you doing right now? How are you getting along? What's happening in your music world right now?
Well, right now, the big band and I, we just did the first annual Jazz Festival at the Local 47 Union in Burbank, California. And we had a 3-day weekend of all big bands and all music from 1 to 5 on Sundays. And it was fantastic. It was really great. It had a chance for other musicians to meet each other that are in different bands that otherwise wouldn't see each other unless through rehearsal halls or whatever. So that was a great experience. And we had a great audience each weekend. I had one more weekend to go, and I have friends playing next week, and I'm hoping to go to that one too. So basically we did that. And then plus playing locally here at different areas, clubs, Monrovia, at the Poorhouse, in Los Angeles at the Catalina Bar and Grill, at Vitello's, different places around. So we try to do as many things as we can and do different concerts and try and do fundraisers too. We're hoping to maybe do some fundraising type of situations too, which we'd like to do, and give our time.
Uh-huh. Well, tell me, how did you get into crooning? How did you get into the whole nightclub scene and you got the pipes for it? That's certainly the case. But how did you get into doing it?
Gosh, I used to be into the folk scene and the rock scene as well, way back when, the 80s, and music's always been my passion. So it's amazing how I just developed and grew. And I went to Dick Grove School of Music in Studio City, which is no longer around, but it was a great music school for commercial music. And it gave people a chance to network with people who are working in the industry and also be taught by people in industry. It was a fantastic school. So I know a lot of people who are still around in the circle of musicians and people. We're still in contact with each other, and we know we have a really good background because of that education of working with professional people. So I basically started from there, went from the folk rock scene in LA and Hollywood into original rock and roll. My Eyes Are Open, like I said before, was an original rock and roll song way back when. So like I said, I wanted to do something with it because the meaning was meant very much to me. So then continuing on, I got involved in doing stuff with the big band. And also jazz too. I have a jazz ensemble group that I play and work with as well. Basically all jazz music, which is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then also I'm involved in another group called Theater Americana. And they're a nonprofit group that does fundraisers for different charities, the different groups, Children's Hospital and things like that. So we do yearly shows for different charities. This year we're doing one for the Bloom Foundation. So I really like being involved in different groups and be able to do music in different venues and different styles. So it's been a joy because music's my passion. So I'm very lucky and very blessed, knock on wood, to be able to have these opportunities to do music in different venues. And I really recommend it highly to try doing music in different venues and different genres as well, because you can only grow by it. You learn and you grow because we're forever growing and learning and networking and everything. So there's an advantage to trying different things. So my recommendation to people to starting out is do different things, volunteer, sing at senior centers or hospitals or find charity groups, choral groups, whatever, but if music's your passion, just put it out there and just see what happens. That's what I did.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the genre question, because quite frankly, a couple weeks ago we had Crashed Out on here, which is a neo-punk band from the UK. We've had Katie Bell on here, who is I dare say she's like a poppy kind of hip hop thing that's going on right now. And then now we have you. So we are all over the place, and Glacier FM's all over the place too, which is how we got to know you, is through Glacier FM. How did you get how'd you get My Eyes Open up onto Glacier FM? How did they find you, and how did that all come together?
Well, I basically was researching different radio stations and indie stations that are accepting people for their music programs and everything. So I just put it out there on the internet and researched different places. Glacier FM was a great one, has been wonderful to me and everything. So they give you a lot of opportunities to do other things with your music, reviews and things. So it's been a growing experience and a good experience that every singer, musician, I really feel should have. And to look them up, because they'll really treat you well. They really will, and give you exposure, and you learn by doing as well, which is important.
Well, that's the sell for Glacier FM, definitely. But the truth of the matter is that you don't match up with the usual genre up there. I think their target audience is somewhere skewing between maybe 20 and 30, and quite frankly, I think most of the people at your concerts are probably a little bit older than that and aren't listening to Glacier FM on a regular basis. But This is exactly why they should be listening to that, is because we have all different types of music up there. And quite frankly, I think, the message behind the song, Open Your Eyes, or Our Eyes Are Open, is that's I think what's making it sell so well on Glacier FM. I think people really are getting behind the ideas of that show, particularly with the way that you made the video. Yeah,
it's a very powerful message, and I'm really happy that people are really listening to it, and it's really affecting them, and they're hearing what I'm saying. So it's, I'm not being political, but at least at the same time, I'm letting people be exposed to what's going on and to be able to think about it through music, which is the best way.
Well, and that's one of the things I think is powerful in the indie music movement that's happening right now, is because you don't have to fit into any one particular genre. You don't have to fit into any particular, square or box or suit or anything like that, like we used to have to do back in the day. And quite frankly, everybody has their own voice and everybody has their own message. And quite frankly, if you find the right message and you resonate with the audience, that's all that's really important.
I agree. Totally agree with you on that. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, let's try and make you resonate with another tune here. And I'm going to do a dealer's choice with you. Is the thing is that I have to come up with. I always play a second song from an artist that I put out there, and I was looking through your entire catalog, and I was really having a very difficult time picking which one I should play. So I'm going to ask you, what should I play going on after this episode, after this interview?
My Eyes Are Open. Spring Knows Its Way Back Home.
Spring Knows Its Way Back Home. You want that one?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Then that is going to be it. We're going to do Spring Knows Its Way Back Home by Jackie Gibson, and that's coming up right now on the Indie Wave podcast.
Snow lying on the garden, peaceful, newly fallen. It's easy to mourn the roses when they're gone. But would that be fair to winter time? It may seem long, may seem unkind, but we, like the sleeping roses, need to rest. This may not be your favorite season, hearts frozen to the bone. God must have his reasons. It may seem lost, but spring knows its way back home. Do you remember cooling, closing, needing distance? Maybe we thought love had to end this way. Now we are standing sad and still, afraid to cry. I pray we will share all the tears we're keeping to ourselves. This may not be your favorite season, hearts frozen to the bone. God must have his reason. It may seem lost, but spring knows its way back home. I know I feel a stir inside, a warm wind will love again. This may not be your favorite season, hearts frozen to the bone. God must have his reasons. It may seem lost, but spring knows its way back home. Yeah. Spring knows its way back home. Spring knows its way back
Hi, I'm that sailing guy, host of the Indie Wave podcast. Each week we meet and learn about some of the most talented artists from the indie music scene today, and you can hear all their great work streaming on Glacier FM and Glacier Underground 24/7. Just head over to the planet's #1 internet radio station, glacierfm.com, for a live stream of all the great hits we feature each week. And tune in on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. for the latest edition of the Indie Wave podcast, only at glacierfm.com. Welcome to the Big Tent, folks. Come on in. You're all welcome. Indie music is a huge tent filled with as many varieties and talents as there are people in the world. And it is amazing, isn't it? There was a time when record producers would have told Ms. Gibson to go home and take a knitting class because she didn't fit into the demographic they were aiming for, just as Greg Brady found out in the 1973 Johnny Bravo episode of The Brady Bunch. They didn't care what your talent was or who wanted to hear what you had to share. All they cared about was whether he fit the suit. Nope. It's not about their opinion anymore, or even their big marketing budgets or their ability to get radio airtime. It's just about finding your own wind and sailing your own vessel. Anyone, anywhere can make their own music, write their own book, paint their own picture, make their own podcast, film their own movie, and the list goes on and on. There are limitless possibilities for how you can market your work now and reach your own audience that is super interested in your work. And no producer, no marketing agency, no record exec or agent can tell you that you don't fit the suit anymore. Because the indie wave is open for all of us. And that's this week's takeaway. As Mr. Rogers used to put it, I like you just the way you are. So stay gold, pony boy. Sorry for the mixed references there. Today's episode is brought to you by the letters I and the number 1. But seriously, folks, big thanks to Jackie Gibson for sharing her story with us, and big thanks to Glacier FM for telling us about her hit, My Eyes Are Open. You can check out Ms. Gibson on YouTube, Spotify, and everywhere you find great music. And you can check out her duo work with Dos Divas on Facebook at Dos Divas LA. You could also hear all of the artists we feature on the Indie Wave at glacierfm.com and the Glacier Underground. Don't forget, we have new episodes each week at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays that get played on Glacier FM, everywhere you find great podcasts, and a video feed on YouTube if you want to see my ugly face. Subscribe to whichever feed you like the most for updates when we publish our videos, and do us a favor and tell a friend. That's all for now. We'll see you next time on the Indie Wave Podcast. I'm your host, That Sailing Guy. Until next time, be well, be good, and always sail far, my friends. Goodbye for now. Have fun.